Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. It's time for the Big Ten tournament as the regular season has now come to an end and the teams are all heading to Chicago to see who will win the 26th Big Ten tournament. I'm going to do a Q&A episode here today. There's not that much to talk about leading into the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, we know that Purdue is kind of right on the fringe for that last number one seed in the NCAA tournament. And for as much as Purdue can help itself this weekend, it also needs UCLA probably to lose in order for the Boilermakers to feel great about their chances of having a number one seed. We'll see what happens there. It's hard to predict at this point. Bracketologists are pretty split overall about which team is going to hold on to that number one seed. If not, Purdue's going to get the top two seed, it appears. It seems very unlikely that any other situation plays out besides that. So there's not a terrible amount of drama in terms of seeding for the NCAA tournament. Purdue has already secured the regular season Big Ten title. So that's done. So let's talk about the Big Ten tournament a little bit here. Real quick, if you don't follow on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond, be sure to do that. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss any episodes here in the next few weeks with tournament play and the postseason finally being here. But Purdue's going to open up Friday at noon, and I am recording this as it just struck noon on Wednesday. So 48 hours from now, Purdue will be tipped off in the Big Ten tournament. They're going to play Rutgers or Michigan. They'll get the winner of that game. An interesting matchup, if you ask me, because Purdue beat Michigan on the road in the regular season, whereas Purdue lost at home to Rutgers in the regular season. And I think if you're Purdue, you would do anything to get Rutgers instead of Michigan in this situation from a sheer wanting to win perspective. Rutgers has not remotely been the same team since Mawot Mag went out with an ACL injury that might have been early February or so, late January, early February. They haven't been the same team at all. And they're in danger of missing the NCAA tournament if they don't pick up a win here in Chicago. Whereas Michigan, Purdue played them without Jet Howard, and he is what he is. He's an excellent offensive player. He's very, very skilled. He's going to be a first-round draft pick for a reason. Kobe Buffkin, Doug McDaniel are guys that are coming into their own in that backcourt, but Michigan still hasn't put it all together. And they need a run here of probably 2 to 3 wins in Chicago to make the NCAA tournament. To me, Michigan's just the far scarier team. And if you're looking for Purdue to get to that Saturday, to get to Sunday, I'd want the path of least resistance. A Michigan game might give you a little bit more of a battle test as you're getting ready for the NCAA tournament. It's certainly more losable than Rutgers, if you ask me. Going to be really interesting to see how that game goes because there's very little part of me that can see Rutgers winning that game. I really think Purdue's going to play Michigan on Thursday, but by the time you're listening to this, you may already know who Purdue is playing in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and this little segment could be obsolete. I think the Big Ten tournament is kind of important for Purdue this year. The importance year to year kind of wavers because if you feel really good about how you're playing down the stretch of the year, I don't think the conference tournament is the be-all, end-all. You can only do so much to help your seeding, and especially when you're in the Big Ten or the SEC who plays their championship game on Sunday. I mean, the selection committee kind of detailed the timeline of how they do things earlier this week. It's pretty much all done Saturday night. They have contingency plans in place in case a bracket or a bid stealer wins in a conference championship game, which, for the Big Ten and SEC isn't usually applicable. So you're not doing all that much to help yourself. But with Purdue this year, I think you would really like to see at least a couple of wins here, at least one win. I think a Friday afternoon exit would be a little bit concerning, just because Purdue has not played their best basketball down the stretch. Now, it's hard to do. They've had some tough matchups. They've had some tough road games. You look at when they lost 4 out of 6 games, those were to top half of the Big Ten teams. 3 of them were on the road. So it's, you can get in the weeds with this pretty easily and get concerned. But I think you'd like to see Purdue at least pick up a win Friday. And if you can get to Sunday, it builds some solid momentum. And if you could win the whole thing, I think it really just helps you show that this group continues to learn how to win. And I think that's something that's really important with guys like Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. And I'd even go to say guys like Trey Kaufman-Wren and Caleb First. These young guys who are going to be around a while, you want them to get comfortable winning. You want them to get used to winning and learning how to win. I think going on a run in the Big Ten tournament would be another big step in that, not just for this year, but for looking at the future. You'll take any recognition you can get. Winning the Big Ten tournament would obviously be that. We'll see if Purdue can do it or not. It's certainly a big ask. Purdue's only won this thing once in the 25 years it's been played. Or maybe 24. I think they counted the year that the tournament got canceled. But Purdue's only won this thing once. The last time Purdue was a 1 seed, they took on Michigan at noon, and they got beat back in 2017. Purdue will be hoping for a different fate here. But let's get into the Q&A here, because there's really not that much to say until you know who Purdue's playing, and then by the time Sunday at 6 rolls around, whatever happened in the Big Ten tournament will be a little bit obsolete. Good first question, though. Chris Collins obviously won Big Ten Coach of the Year over Matt Painter. And the question is, why did Matt Painter deserve to win it? Why did Chris Collins get the nod despite starting 5 upperclassmen and finishing with nearly the same record as 2/3 of the conference? Look, I agree with the sentiment of this. I think that winning the Big Ten by 3 games should probably just guarantee you winning Coach of the Year, because it's a heck of an accomplishment. It's not easy to do. It's like I said on the Sunday podcast, only 6 teams in the last 40 years have done that. I think that should give Matt Painter a big advantage already before you even factor in what Purdue lost from last season. Purdue was picked to finish 5th in the Big Ten in the preseason. I think that plays a big role. Obviously Chris Collins got the nod because Northwestern has really struggled for the last 5 years. They had the nice run in 2017 where they got to the second round. But ever since then, they really haven't been very good. They haven't been in contention for an NCAA tournament bid. So that's why Chris Collins got it. And he does deserve praise. Don't get me wrong here. Winning at Northwestern is very hard to do. But I would have voted for Matt Painter for this. But, there does become a certain point where when you win enough, you stop getting the recognition for it. And you look at the history of the Big Ten, at a certain point, Bobby Knight stopped winning Big Ten Coach of the Year awards for the most part. At a certain point, Tom Izzo has stopped winning Big Ten Coach of the Year awards. I know the the scenario down in the SEC where Billy Donovan had won multiple national titles before he won an SEC Coach of the Year, I believe. I think I've heard that before. So, it is what it is. It's not always given to the best coaching job. It's more given to the team that usually maybe comes out from the bottom or something. I don't know, but I agree with this question that Matt Painter probably deserved to win it, but again, it's not the end of the world. A good one here. A successful tournament run will be fueled by X, and a disappointing tournament will end as a result of X. And I think the answer to both of this is three-point shooting. I think it is the difference maker for Purdue. The turnovers are going to be critically important as well, and I think individual defensive matchups are going to loom really large. You can't have a guy go for 35 like Jalen Hood-Schifino did on you, but Purdue has to knock down three-point shots because there will come a game if Purdue's making a Final Four run where either Zach Edey's in foul trouble or a team is doing a great job of forcing the ball out of his hands. That time is going to come where Purdue has to make threes to win a game. That could come in the round of 32. That could come in the Elite Eight. That could come in the national championship game. But at some point, there will come a game that three-point shooting is going to be life or death for this team. Whichever way that goes, I think it's going to make the difference between a successful tournament run or a disappointing tournament. But yeah, three-point shooting is really that X factor, if you ask me. Would you want another shot at IU in the Big Ten championship, or would you rather they lose early? So this is one that is interesting because I think it depends on your perspective here. Like if I'm a Purdue player, one of the guys on the team, I would think they would all want another shot at IU. They seem to be a pretty competitive bunch, and they would love a chance to avenge those two losses. Now, if you're a fan, I mean, you don't want to lose a third time to Indiana. That would make for quite the long summer for Purdue fans, especially if the Boilermakers don't make the Final Four. But, I think you can look at the history of the Big Ten tournament. Again, we've done 25 of these, and Purdue and IU have still only met once in the Big Ten tournament. So the odds certainly aren't in their favor of this happening. I kind of say, why not? I think you would like to do it, but at the same time, it probably is the team that gives you the most problems in the Big Ten. Trace Jackson-Davis is very good. Jalen Hood-Schifino is very good. They have some nice pieces around them. It is a tougher matchup than pretty much anyone on the bottom half of that bracket. I think you'd much rather get another shot at Northwestern, or you'd much rather get another. Who else is even down there? Illinois again. I don't know if they'll make it as a 7 seed, but you get the point. I think there are more advantageous matchups for Purdue from the bottom half of that bracket. Do you believe the theory that winning the Big Ten tournament championship is a bad thing going into the big dance? Should Purdue want to win it? I don't know. And as I kind of said earlier, I flip-flop on this a lot. I don't have any empirical data in front of me on this to show what the percentages would indicate. I think in general, you'd like to have momentum going in, but not too much momentum. And I think Purdue could strike a nice balance there if they win this, because they had gone through a little bit of a late season skid, but they could still pick up some nice momentum. What I don't think you want is to be riding some giant win streak, like a 14-game win streak going into the NCAA tournament. Then I think it gets a little bit difficult just from a statistical odds standpoint. But I think Purdue should want to win this. I think it means a lot for getting these younger players experience of winning on big stages. And even though conference tournaments aren't the be-all, end-all, it's a big enough stage that I think Purdue should really want to win in it. I got a question here. Saw it on goldenblack.com, but if you could pick any other Big Ten player and put him on this Purdue team, who would you take? I think Chris Murray's probably the best answer here. Obviously Trace Jackson Davis is great, but you already have the best 5 in the country and probably the only 5 that's better than Trace Jackson Davis. Jalen Pickett is interesting, but his game predicates on backing guys down so much that I don't know how well that would work with Zach Edey there. With Chris Murray, though, you have a guy who can play out on the wing, who can knock down threes, who can create his own shot off the dribble, a nice long piece who could be good defensively. I think Chris Murray's the answer there. He's probably who I'd go with for sure. But, there are some other guys like Terrence Shannon could be interesting, just another long athletic wing. But I think Chris Murray is kind of the best of the bunch there. Which team or teams winning the Big Ten tournament would least surprise you, not including the double byes? So seeds 5 through 14. I'd go with Illinois to a certain degree. I mean, they're such a roller coaster that I don't think I can trust them to win 4 straight games, but it's a big ask for anybody. I'll go with them from the bottom half, and then just, I guess, on the top half, Michigan or Iowa. They're both, that's the deal with this Big Ten tournament, is nobody is remarkably consistent in the Big Ten. Michigan's a team that I think has all the tools to put it together in March and play good basketball. I'll go with them. Iowa, again, they won it last year, and you wonder if Lightning can strike 2 years in a row given their defensive limitations. But it could. They can put up a lot of points in a hurry, and that's really what carried them to the Big Ten tournament championship last year. So I'll go with Michigan, Iowa, Illinois as the 3 that would be the least surprising to me. We got the good basketball conspiracy here. Should I bet on all our players' 3-point total unders due to playing with the Wilson basketball? Well, no. I don't. The numbers are what they are, and Purdue has not shot as well with the Wilson basketball. I think playing in away games with the Wilson basketball probably has a great deal of impact on that too. But look, Purdue's not shooting well with any basketball. It's shooting below 33% from 3. So if you're betting 3-point total unders, maybe that would be your reason why. But Purdue practices with these things. I mean, they certainly would have been practicing with the Wilson basketball since Monday. So at some point you got to adapt or die to this thing, because they're going to play with it in the Big Ten tournament and they're going to play with it in the NCAA tournament. This is an interesting one I got from a longtime listener. As it stands today, do you think Eric Hunter Jr. would have made this team better or hindered it? I don't know that hindered it is the right word, because I think he could have played a nice role. I think what would have been very strange, if Eric Hunter Jr. would have come back, I don't think you would end up with David Jenkins. Starting Braden Smith over him, I think Braden Smith is certainly the higher ceiling player between the two. But, how do you deal with a guy who would have started at Purdue for 2.5 seasons, then coming off the bench for a freshman? That's a really weird dynamic that I think is hard to account for in terms of making the team better or hindering it. I think him and David Jenkins, Eric Hunter Jr. is probably a little bit better of a player than David Jenkins Jr., but David Jenkins Jr. has played his role pretty well, albeit maybe not shooting as well as you would have liked from outside. I don't know that it would have made a tremendous difference, though. I don't think that having Eric Hunter Jr., if anything, it would have stunted the growth of Braden Smith during this season a little bit. No pun intended, because he's not the tallest guy. But I think it would have limited how much Braden Smith got on the court and how much he could grow. And I think that would have been really concerning, just because we've seen how good he can be. So that's kind of, I don't have a great answer, but I don't think it would have made a tremendous difference. This one, I've kind of touched on this a little bit. Would it be better for Purdue to lose and then get some rest in the conference tournament, or just go, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then go straight into the NCAA tournament? I think getting positive momentum is more important than rest. Fatigue can certainly play a part of it. Now, they are all but certain to go to Columbus for the first two rounds, which is a Friday-Sunday site. So you would have an extra day compared to the teams that go play Thursday. That would help, but I think momentum is more important than rest at this point, because everyone's going to be tired to a certain degree. These guys will have played 32 plus college basketball games dating back to the start of November. The season wears on you, but I don't think that getting an extra day or two of rest would be all that important. Does the rotation get shortened anymore for the NCAA tournament? And if so, who loses minutes? I don't see it happening. I don't know where you really trim it. David Jenkins Jr. is, a guy who's been getting anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes a game. I think he played 9 against Illinois on Sunday. But you need him to spell Braden Smith a little bit. You can't have Braden Smith out there for all 40, though I think at times when he's having a really good game, you would like him to be out there for all 40 if it was possible. Again, Trey Kaufman-Renn is playing well right now. He's scoring well. He's letting the game come to him better, and Zach Edey can't play all 40. Now, how the minutes at the 4 work out, I think, is going to be interesting, because we have seen Trey Kaufman-Renn start to get periodic minutes there. So I don't know. I don't think the rotation is going to get shortened, though, just because I don't think there's a lot of trimming that you can do. And certainly, with the Brandon Newman, Ethan Morton thing, I think you're going to see them on the floor a little bit more together, and maybe not Fletcher Lawyer playing 35 minutes. But I think those three guys, Newman, Lawyer, Morton, are all going to play a lot. They're all going to play quite a bit. After Newman's performance against Illinois, do you anticipate him staying in the starting lineup moving forward? Yes, I do. I would be surprised if Purdue made any starting lineup changes from here on out. Matt Painter is not one who makes a ton of starting lineup changes. Whatever your philosophy is on starting lineup changes, so be it. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all for anything. I think it can be a little bit overrated sometimes, but if it can give players a jolt of confidence, then I think it's great. That's what it's done for Brandon Newman. He's playing well. Ethan Morton's playing well. I don't see Purdue making any starting lineup changes from here on out until November. How do we judge this team? As either A, a preseason unranked team that lost a lot last year and a team with freshman guards and youth, or B, a 26-5 Big Ten outright champion that spent nearly 2 months at number 1 with the best player in the nation? The answer sets expectations for here on out. Well, number two is certainly reality. They're both reality. And that's what's really tricky about this, because Purdue is 26-5. They won the Big Ten regular season. They spent I don't remember how many weeks they spent at number one, but a fair amount. And Zach Edey's winning every National Player of the Year award in sight. But, there are still those no getting away from facts that Purdue has a lot of youth in the backcourt, and Purdue lost a lot. But, look, I think when you sit here right now, you have to look at Purdue as a top 10 team in the country, I think is a fair way of looking at it. And when you're a top 10 team in the country, you better be in that second weekend, and you want to be pushing towards that third weekend. I think that's probably the right way to look at it. Now, if Purdue were to lose a close game in an Elite Eight or something, I think it's really hard to sit here and just say, oh my God, it's a failure. All of the expectations were, whatever. I think it's hard to say that, but yeah, I mean, if Purdue were to lose in the round of 32, you would rightfully be pretty disappointed in how the season ended. And then finally, one here to close on, and an interesting one, as the season does come close to an end. And here in a few weeks, a few could be next week or could be 3 weeks out, but we'll start looking ahead to the future, and that's what this question does. Do you think that when Zach Edey eventually moves on in the next year or two, does Matt Painter go back to the motion offense? Berg seems to be more mobile and a perimeter threat to go with it, kind of like a Matt Harms type. It'll be interesting to see, because it depends on what Will Berg is capable of doing, and I think it's hard to put a ton of expectations on someone who we really haven't seen yet. I don't know what Will Berg can or can't do. I don't know what is reasonable to expect there. But what I do know is, if you look, even if Zach Edey leaves next year, you have Caleb First and Trey Kaufman-Renn, and they can do some interesting things, but Trey Kaufman-Renn looks like a guy who's going to be able to play on the block pretty well. I think it's going to be critically important that Purdue continues to recruit skilled guys, guys who can shoot, which, they haven't shot up to their capability level this year, but, certainly in looking at how they're recruiting, that's a big priority. Kind of when you looking at a Matt Harms team for comparison, that 2018-19 team had Carson Edwards and Ryan Klein, and they shot a ton of threes. Having a Carson Edwards type is helpful. It's also a little bit volatile. You look at some of the team's performances that year. They started off slow. They had that 48-point performance at Indiana and somehow won. They laid a couple of eggs against Minnesota late in the year, but then Carson Edwards went crazy in the tournament, and no one remembers those downturns. So I guess I'm off on a tangent here, but I think you're going to see a mix of it. I think when you look at the players that Purdue has coming in, Miles Colvin, Cannon Catchings are a couple of really high-end guys who can do some really interesting things that maybe some of Purdue's current players can't. But I still think the post presence is still going to be a big part of Purdue basketball. I'd be really surprised if that went away. Purdue's certainly recruiting some big guys. I don't know who they will or won't get, but I think you may see a little bit more of a guard-oriented offense once Zach Edey leaves, but I'd be utterly shocked if the post presence went away. That team with Matt Harms didn't throw it to him on the block very much. I don't know that Purdue will go to throwing it on the block that little, but anything's possible. I don't know that it would shock me. But hey, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for spending time with me throughout the entire regular season. I will be back here on Sunday night. No matter what Purdue does in the Big Ten tournament, I'm not going to record till Sunday night. We'll see where Purdue is headed, I guess we kind of know where they're headed, but who they're playing, if they're a 1 or a 2, all of that good stuff. We'll talk about whatever happened in the Big Ten tournament. We'll have a good episode there. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at BoilersBeyond for lots of tweets and updates throughout the Big Ten tournament. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. And I'll do another one of these mailbags before the NCAA tournament starts next week. So send anything over to me that you would like me to hit on. Until then, guys, enjoy the Big Ten tournament and take care.